The Invisible War, May 23rd, 1942, 11:47 p.m. Bletchley Park, Buckinghamshire, England. The clatter of teleprinters fills Hut 6 like mechanical rain. Commander Alistair Denniston stands behind a young cryptanalyst named Margaret Rock, watching her fingers trace across decoded German text that arrived just minutes ago via intercepted radio transmission. The cigarette smoke hangs thick in the air, mingling with the smell of stale tea and exhaustion. Outside, the English countryside sleeps under blackout conditions, but here, in this Victorian mansion converted into Britain's most secret facility, the night shift has just intercepted something extraordinary. Margaret's pencil hovers over the decrypt. It's a message from Führerhauptquartier, Hitler's headquarters, addressed to General Feldmarschall Erwin Rommel in North Africa. Her supervisor, cryptanalyst John Tiltman, leans in to read the German text. The message contains specific operational orders, troop movements, supply priorities, tactical objectives for the upcoming offensive at Gazala. Tiltman checks his watch and does the mental calculation. Based on transmission routing and courier times, this message won't reach Rommel's command post near Tobruk for another 8 hours, maybe 12 if the Luftwaffe courier flights are delayed. You're witnessing something the German High Command believed impossible. The Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, the Supreme Command of the German Armed Forces, had built their entire communications infrastructure on one unshakable assumption. Enigma was unbreakable. They had mathematicians calculate the odds. With 3 rotors, a plug board, and daily key settings, the Enigma machine generated 158,962,505,217,126, 360,000 possible configurations. Breaking such a cipher, German cryptographers assured their generals would require testing every combination, a task that would take thousands of years, even if you somehow captured a machine. But what the Germans didn't know was that British intelligence had done exactly that. What they couldn't imagine was that in huts scattered across these 58 acres of Buckinghamshire estate, over 10,000 code breakers were systematically reading their most secret communications. And what would have seemed like pure fantasy to any Wehrmacht officer was the simple truth. Allied commanders were reading Adolf Hitler's orders before those orders reached his own generals in the field. The machine the Germans trusted, January 15, 1940, Kriegsmarine Headquarters, Berlin, Germany. Kapitän zur See Ludwig Stummel demonstrates the Enigma machine to a visiting delegation of Wehrmacht officers. The device sits on the polished oak table like a typewriter merged with a suitcase, its wooden case open to reveal the mechanical rotors and electrical wiring beneath. Stummel's demonstration is confident, almost theatrical. He sets the rotors to today's key setting, specified in the codebook that's distributed monthly to every Enigma operator across the Reich, and types a simple message: Angriff 8 UHR, attack at 8 o'clock. The rotors spin with each keystroke, and the illuminated letters appear in seemingly random sequence: PQMKD, TVYZNQLP. Stummel smiles at the officers. Gentlemen, this message is now absolutely secure. Even if the enemy intercepts our radio transmission, even if they somehow steal an Enigma machine, without knowing today's rotor positions, ring settings, and plugboard configuration, decryption is mathematically impossible. The officers nod approvingly. General Major Heinz Guderian, the architect of Panzer Doctrine, examines the device with particular interest. He understands that his coming blitzkrieg operations, the lightning warfare that will soon shock Europe, depend entirely on rapid communication and coordinated movement. Radio silence is impossible when you're commanding armored spearheads racing hundreds of kilometers ahead of main forces. His panzers will need constant orders, supply updates, intelligence reports. And the British, Guderian asks, their cryptographic capabilities? Stummel dismisses the concern with a wave. Their mathematics is adequate, Herr General, but they lack German precision. Besides, We change the settings daily. By the time they could even begin analysis of intercepted messages, those messages are operationally worthless, outdated by 24 hours. And our highest-level communications, the Führer's strategic directives, those use enhanced four-rotor machines. The security factor increases by a factor of 26. What none of these men know is that British intelligence has already acquired Enigma machines from Poland. What they cannot fathom is that a peculiar Cambridge mathematician named Alan Turing is already designing an electromechanical device, the bomb, specifically engineered to exploit a critical weakness in Enigma operation. German operators' human predictability. And what would terrify every man in this Berlin conference room is the knowledge that within 18 months, Bletchley Park will be reading Wehrmacht communications nearly in real time. Bletchley's breakthrough, March 1941. Hut 8, Bletchley Park, England. Alan Turing adjusts his bicycle clips and enters Hut 8 at 6:30 a.m., 30 minutes before his official shift. The 28-year-old mathematician moves through the cramped workspace with an awkward gait, his tie askew, his hair uncombed. To casual observers, he appears almost childlike in his social mannerisms, but the codebreakers working the night shift look up with respect as he approaches the bomb machine designated Agnes. The bomb, named after the Polish bomber cipher device, stands over 2 meters tall, a massive array of rotating drums and electrical wiring that clicks and whirs as it tests thousands of rotor positions per minute. Turing designed these machines based on a crucial insight. German Enigma operators make mistakes. They use predictable phrases. Weather reports always begin with wetter, weather. U-boat commanders routinely end messages with Heil Hitler. Every message includes standardized call signs and formatting. Turing calls these predictable elements cribs, known plaintext that corresponds to encrypted ciphertext. If you know that a German weather report transmitted at 600 hours begins with wetter, you can set the bomb to test rotor positions until it finds a configuration that encrypts wetter into the intercepted message's opening characters. Once you discover the day's settings, you can decrypt every message sent on that network that day. Cryptanalyst Joan Clark approaches with a fresh intercept from Station X's listening post. Naval Enigma Allen, Mediterranean Fleet. Transmitted 0534 this morning. She hands him the paper covered in 5-letter groups of seemingly random characters. Turing scans the message length and transmission metadata. Addressed to Fliegerführer Africa, that's Luftwaffe liaison with Rommel's forces. They'll use their standard format, call sign, then situation report, then orders. He moves to Agnes and begins setting the cryptologic menu, the hypothetical rotor positions based on the crib. 23 minutes later, Agnes stops. The drums halt their rotation. Turing checks the position indicators and cross-references them with the decrypt sheet. Rotor order 253, ring settings 14924. He calls out the settings to Clark, who begins manually decrypting the message using the recovered daily key. The German text emerges, operational orders for Luftwaffe reconnaissance flights over British supply convoys approaching Malta, specific coordinates, exact times. The intelligence is immediately forwarded to the Admiralty. British convoy routes will be adjusted. Fighter protection will be positioned precisely where German reconnaissance aircraft will appear. And the Germans will never know why their intelligence gathering suddenly became so ineffective. Reading Hitler's Mind, June 4th, 1942. Room 40, Bletchley Park, 2:17 p.m. Group Captain Eric Jones receives the decrypt marked Ultra Secret with hands that betray the slightest tremor. This isn't standard Wehrmacht traffic. This is OKW Chi, Oberkommando der Wehrmacht Cipher, the highest classification of German military communications. These messages come directly from Hitler's field headquarters, the Wolfschanze in East Prussia, and are encrypted using 4-rotor naval Enigma variants reserved for Supreme Command directives. The decrypt is addressed to General Feldmarschall Rommel, currently commanding Panzer Army Africa in preparation for a decisive offensive. Jones reads the German text, his expertise allowing him to grasp the strategic implications instantly. Hitler is personally ordering Rommel to capture Tobruk, then immediately pursue retreating British forces into Egypt. The Führer's message includes specific objectives: seize the Suez Canal, continue into Palestine, potentially link up with German forces advancing through the Caucasus. Jones checks the transmission timestamp and calculates the courier schedule. This message left the Wolfschanze at 13:40 hours Central European Time. It was transmitted via landline to a signal station in Poland, then encrypted and broadcast via shortwave to Wehrmacht relay stations in Crete. From Crete, Luftwaffe couriers will fly the decoded message to Rommel's mobile headquarters, currently positioned west of Tobruk. Given weather conditions and standard courier procedures, the physical dispatch won't reach Rommel's chief of staff, Oberst Fritz Bayerlein, until approximately 800 hours tomorrow, nearly 18 hours from now. But you, sitting in British intelligence headquarters in Cairo, will read Hitler's orders to Rommel in approximately 90 minutes. The decrypt will be enciphered using British one-time pads transmitted to the Secret Intelligence Service station in Cairo and placed on General Claude Auchinlec's desk before sundown. The commander of British forces in the Middle East will have an entire night to reposition his forces, reinforce critical sectors, and prepare countermeasures against German movements that Rommel himself hasn't yet been ordered to execute. This is the invisible advantage that Ultra provides. Not merely intelligence about enemy intentions, but intelligence delivered faster than the enemy's own command structure. It's as if British commanders possess a crystal ball, except the magic is mathematics, engineering, and the tireless work of thousands of codebreakers analyzing millions of intercepted transmissions. The North African Revelation, August 31st, 1942. Forward Intelligence Unit, El Alamein, Egypt. Lieutenant Colonel Freddy de Guingand studies the Ultra decrypt with growing satisfaction. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery, newly appointed commander of the 8th Army, stands beside him in the command caravan, the North African heat making the cramped space nearly unbearable. Outside, British positions stretch along a 40-mile line from the Mediterranean coast to the impassable Qattara Depression. Rommel's Afrika Korps faces them from positions just kilometers away. "He's coming through the south," de Guingand says, pointing to the decrypt in his hand. "Panzer divisions will attempt penetration at Alam el Halfa Ridge. Rommel believes we've weakened that sector." Montgomery examines the intelligence. The decrypt reveals Rommel's complete battle plan for the coming offensive. Units involved, axis of advance, timing, objectives. It's extracted from multiple Ultra sources. Tactical Enigma traffic between Afrika Korps, divisional commanders, logistics communications about fuel supplies, even a message from Rommel directly to Berlin reporting his intentions. "When do the Germans believe they'll attack?" Montgomery asks. "Their operational orders specify September 1st, 0200 hours. Rommel expects moonlight for the advance." Montgomery checks his watch. It's 15:30 hours on August 31st. In less than 11 hours, Rommel will launch his offensive, but Montgomery has known about this attack for 3 days. Longer than some of Rommel's own subordinate commanders, who only received their detailed orders this morning. The British response is already in motion. The 22nd Armoured Brigade has been quietly reinforced at Alam el Halfa. Anti-tank gun positions have been prepared along every likely German approach route. Artillery has been pre-registered on coordinates where Ultra indicates Rommel's panzers will concentrate. Even the Royal Air Force has positioned squadrons to strike the exact supply columns that Ultra has identified as critical to sustaining Rommel's offensive. When Rommel attacks in the pre-dawn darkness, he will encounter unexpectedly fierce resistance at every point. His panzers will advance directly into prepared killing zones. His supply columns will be bombed with uncanny precision. Within 48 hours, the Africa Corps will be forced into retreat, having suffered crippling losses, and Rommel will never understand how the British seem to anticipate his every move, as if they possessed complete knowledge of his operational plans, which, of course, they did. The Secret That Won the War, December 1943. Hut 3, Bletchley Park. Evening shift. The scale of ultra operations has expanded beyond anything imagined in 1940. Bletchley Park now employs over 10,000 personnel, cryptanalysts, linguists, wireless operators, clerical staff, machine operators. The original Victorian mansion has been supplemented by dozens of wooden huts and concrete buildings. Banks of bomb machines run 24 hours daily, their rotating drums testing millions of Enigma settings. Flight Officer Sarah Norton translates a freshly decrypted message from German text to English. She's one of hundreds of translators working in shifts, converting the raw German decrypts into actionable intelligence reports. The message she's processing originated from Generaloberst Heinz Guderian, now Inspector General of Armored Troops, reporting to OKW about panzer production shortfalls and training delays. The intelligence is immediately relevant. Allied strategists planning the eventual invasion of France need to know German armored strength, deployment locations, and readiness status. This message, sent from Guderian to the Wehrmacht High Command, provides exact numbers. How many Panther tanks are operational, how many crews are fully trained, which units are ready for combat, and which are still forming. Norton completes her translation and passes it to the intelligence assessment team. Within hours, her translation will be synthesized with dozens of other ultra-decrypts, cross-referenced with photographic reconnaissance and human intelligence reports, and compiled into a comprehensive assessment. That assessment will be encrypted using unbreakable one-time cipher pads and transmitted to General Dwight Eisenhower's headquarters. Before Guderian's own report reaches Hitler's desk, delayed by bureaucratic processing through multiple OKW departments, Allied Supreme Command will have analyzed its contents and adjusted invasion planning accordingly. This is the routine that has been maintained since 1941. Every day, thousands of German messages are intercepted, decrypted, translated, analyzed, and disseminated to Allied commanders. The Germans continue using Enigma with complete confidence, never suspecting that their unbreakable cipher was broken years ago. They occasionally investigate security concerns, suspicious Allied actions, unexplained intelligence successes. But the investigations always conclude that Enigma remains secure. The mathematical improbability of breaking the cipher blinds them to the reality that mathematics combined with mechanical computing power has made the impossible routine. The silence. After victory. August 1945. Classified Archive, London. The war in Europe ended 3 months ago. The war against Japan ended just days ago with atomic bombs and Soviet invasion. Wing Commander Edward Hastings oversees the systematic destruction of documents at a secure facility in London. Thousands of ultra-decrypts are being burned. Bomb machines are being dismantled. Personnel files are being sealed under Official Secrets Act restrictions that will remain in force indefinitely. The 12,000 men and women who worked at Bletchley Park and its associated intercept stations have been individually briefed. You will never speak about your wartime work. Not to family, not to historians, not in memoirs or interviews. The ultra-secret must be preserved absolutely. The reason is strategic. Many countries still use Enigma-based cipher systems, including some British allies. If the world learns that Enigma was broken, those systems will be abandoned and new ciphers developed. British intelligence wants to continue reading foreign communications in peacetime. Winston Churchill, in his post-war reflections, wants desperately to reveal the ultra-secret. He believes the codebreakers deserve recognition for shortening the war by an estimated 2 years, saving countless lives. But his military intelligence advisors insist the secret must hold And it does. For 30 years, not one of the thousands of individuals involved discloses the truth. Not one memoir reveals what happened at Bletchley Park. The greatest intelligence coup in history remains completely unknown to the public. When the secret finally emerges in the 1970s, after British intelligence declassifies Enigma-related materials, historians must completely reassess World War II. Battles explained as brilliant Allied generalship were actually won by foreknowledge of German plans. Rommel's defeats in North Africa, once attributed to Montgomery's tactical genius, are now understood as the inevitable result of the British reading every message Rommel sent and received. Hitler's strategic blunders, particularly his inability to concentrate forces effectively, were partly caused by Allied deception operations that only succeeded because Ultra revealed exactly what intelligence the Germans believed. The German High Command's unshakable faith in Enigma, their absolute confidence that top-level traffic was untouchable, had been their greatest vulnerability. While they focused on tactical and operational excellence, the Allies had achieved something far more valuable. They had won the invisible war. They had captured the German High Command's thoughts before those thoughts could be transformed into action. They had read Hitler's orders before his generals did. And they had kept that secret until victory was absolute and the secret no longer mattered. The Battle for the Atlantic, March 1943. U-boat tracking room, Admiralty, London. Commander Roger Wynne plots another convoy route across the Atlantic, his wall-mounted map covered with coloured pins, representing Allied merchant ships and suspected U-boat positions. The Battle of the Atlantic has become a mathematical race between tonnage sunk and tonnage built. Britain survives on imported food, fuel, and war materials. If the U-boats can sink ships faster than American shipyards can replace them, Britain will starve into surrender, regardless of battlefield victories elsewhere. Wynne receives the latest Ultra decrypt from Bletchley's Hut 8, the section dedicated to naval Enigma. The message originates from Befehlshaber der Unterseeboote, Admiral Karl Dönitz's U-boat command headquarters in Paris. It's an operational order directing U-boat patrol positions in the North Atlantic. Precise coordinates where submarines are to form a Wolfpack patrol line intended to intercept eastbound convoy HX-229. The intelligence is extraordinarily detailed. Dönitz's message specifies which U-boats are assigned to the patrol line: U-91, U-228, U-384, U-631, and 7 others. It provides their exact positions and the times they're expected to reach station. It even includes instructions for radio reporting schedules and attack protocols once Allied convoys are sighted. Wynne cross-references the U-boat positions with convoy HX-229's planned route. The merchant ships are currently 3 days out from New York, steaming toward precisely the coordinates where Dönitz is positioning his submarines. Without course adjustment, the convoy will sail directly into the Wolfpack. But with Ultra providing complete knowledge of German dispositions, Wynne can route the convoy around the threat. He drafts new sailing orders for the convoy commodore. Adjust course 40 degrees south, maintain that heading for 18 hours, then resume original track. The course change will add half a day to the voyage, but it will take HX-229 completely clear of the U-boat patrol line. The German submarines will wait at their assigned positions, scanning empty ocean, while 41 Allied merchant ships carrying 200,000 tons of cargo pass safely to the south. This is the pattern that has turned the Battle of the Atlantic. In early 1943, U-boats were sinking over 500,000 tons of Allied shipping monthly. But as Bletchley Park's codebreakers achieved more consistent breaks into naval Enigma, convoy losses plummeted. By May 1943, Dönitz will withdraw his U-boats from the North Atlantic entirely, having lost 41 submarines in a single month while achieving minimal sinkings. The Admiral will never understand why his carefully coordinated Wolfpack tactics suddenly became ineffective. why Allied convoys seem to possess an uncanny ability to avoid his patrol lines. Operation Tunny, breaking Hitler's personal cipher, July 1942, Newmanry, Bletchley Park. Professor Max Newman examines the teleprinter message with fascination. This isn't Enigma traffic. This is something far more sophisticated. The German Lorenz SZ40-42 cipher machine, codenamed Tunny by British intelligence. While Enigma encrypts tactical and operational communications, Tunny is reserved exclusively for strategic traffic between Hitler and his army group commanders. The Lorenz machine is vastly more complex than Enigma. It uses 12 rotors instead of 3 or 4, producing encryption that German cryptographers believe is literally unbreakable. Not merely difficult, but mathematically impossible to decrypt without knowing the machine settings. Messages encrypted on Tunny machines are transmitted via teleprinter circuits, allowing high-level strategic directives to be sent at much higher speeds than Morse code radio. Newman's team includes mathematician William Tutt, who achieved what German experts considered impossible. He reverse-engineered the entire Lorenz machine's logical structure through pure mathematical analysis without ever having seen the actual device. Working from 2 intercepted messages that had been encrypted with the same key settings, a catastrophic German operator error, Tutte deduced the rotor patterns, the stepping mechanisms, everything. But knowing how Tunny works and actually breaking it operationally are different challenges. Enigma decryption had been semi-automated with the bomb machines, but Tunny requires processing at a scale beyond what electromechanical devices can handle. Newman proposes something revolutionary, an entirely electronic computer using vacuum tubes for high-speed calculation. The result is Colossus, the world's first programmable electronic computer. The Mark I Colossus becomes operational in December 1943, and it's a genuine marvel of engineering. 1,500 vacuum tubes, reading paper tape at 5,000 characters per second, testing potential decrypts through complex Boolean logic operations. By 1944, Bletchley Park operates 10 Colossus computers working in parallel. They decrypt Tunny traffic that reveals Hitler's strategic thinking in real time. His assessment of Allied intentions, his force dispositions, his orders to army group commanders. When Hitler orders Field Marshal von Rundstedt to concentrate panzer reserves inland from the Normandy coast, convinced the real invasion will come at Pas-de-Calais, Tunny decrypts reveal that assessment to Eisenhower days before the D-Day landings. The Germans never suspect Tunny is compromised. The cipher is too complex, the mathematics too formidable. Even if they knew the British had captured Lorenz machines from overrun German positions, they cannot imagine that electronic computers capable of breaking Tunny encryption exist, because such computers don't exist anywhere except in the secret halls of Bletchley Park. D-Day, the ultimate deception, June 5, 1944. Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, Portsmouth. General Dwight Eisenhower reviews the final ultra-summaries before giving the irrevocable order to launch Operation Overlord. Outside, 156,000 Allied troops are boarding ships and aircraft for the invasion of Normandy. The largest amphibious operation in history depends not merely on military power but on deception, convincing the Germans that the main invasion will strike Pas-de-Calais, 200 miles northeast of the actual landing beaches. Ultra has been essential to this deception. For months, Allied intelligence has been monitoring German assessments through decrypted communications. Every Abwehr intelligence summary, every Wehrmacht situation report, every strategic appreciation from Berlin has been read at Bletchley and forwarded to Eisenhower's intelligence staff. The Allies know exactly what the Germans believe, and crucially, they know their deception operations are working. The ultra-decrypts reveal that Hitler and the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht remain convinced that Pas-de-Calais is the primary invasion objective. Normandy, they assess, might be a diversionary attack at most. This belief, carefully cultivated by Allied deception operations using false radio traffic, phantom armies, and double agents, keeps the German 15th Army's 15 divisions stationed at Pas-de-Calais, even after the Normandy landings begin. Colonel Friedrich August von der Heydte, commanding German paratroopers in Normandy, will later describe his headquarters' confusion during the invasion. Requests for reinforcements are denied because OKW believes the real attack hasn't yet occurred. Panzer divisions that could reach the beaches within hours remain stationary, waiting for orders that won't come for days. And those orders are delayed because Hitler himself, convinced Normandy is a feint, refuses to release armored reserves until the real invasion at Pas-de-Calais materializes. Eisenhower knows all of this through Ultra. The decrypts provide real-time intelligence about German force dispositions, movement orders, and strategic assessments. When a decrypt reveals that the 21st Panzer Division is being held near Caen, instead of being immediately committed to counterattack, Allied planners adjust their beach landing schedules. When Ultra reveals confusion in the German command structure about whether to commit reserves, Allied commanders exploit the delay to consolidate their beachhead. The invasion succeeds not merely because of Allied courage and German mistakes, but because Allied commanders are reading German communications faster than German commanders themselves. The invisible advantage that Ultra provides, complete transparency into enemy thinking, has once again proven decisive. The final decrypts April 1945, Hut 3, Bletchley Park, late evening. The volume of German radio traffic has declined dramatically. Wehrmacht communications networks are collapsing as Allied armies advance from east and west, compressing the Third Reich into an ever-shrinking pocket of territory. But the signals interceptors at Bletchley's Y stations continue monitoring every frequency, and the codebreakers continue their work. Intelligence officer Peter Calvacoressi translates a decrypt from Army Group B, now encircled in the Ruhr pocket. The message reports catastrophic ammunition shortages, fuel exhaustion, and disintegrating unit cohesion. It's addressed to OKW headquarters, but there's no indication the message ever received a response. The German command structure itself is fragmenting. Another decrypt arrives from the Eastern Front, a panicked report from a Wehrmacht signals unit describing Soviet tank columns advancing uncontested through Bavaria. The tone is desperate, almost incoherent. These are no longer the crisp, professional military communications that characterized German signals traffic in 1940. These are transmissions from a defeated army. On April 30th, interceptors detect unusual activity on SS command frequencies. Multiple messages reference Führer Hauptquartier in past tense. Bletchley's intelligence analysts assess that something significant has occurred at Hitler's headquarters, though the encrypted messages don't reveal specifics. It will take several hours before the decrypt confirms what analysts suspect. Hitler is dead, his bunker in Berlin overrun. The final German military communications intercepted by Bletchley arrive in early May. Their messages between Wehrmacht units arranging local surrenders, negotiating with Allied forces, transmitting final situation reports to commands that no longer exist. On May 8, 1945, Germany surrenders unconditionally. The war in Europe is over. The codebreakers, who have worked through 6 years of war, who have read millions of German messages, who have tracked every German unit, who have provided intelligence that shaped every major Allied operation, quietly shut down their stations. The Bombe machines stop rotating, the Colossus computers process their final tapes, and the secret of Ultra remains locked away, known only to the thousands who participated and the commanders whose decisions it informed. Legacy of the Invisible War. Bletchley Park's impact on World War II cannot be measured in conventional military terms like divisions destroyed or territory captured. Ultra shortened the war by an estimated 2 years, according to official British intelligence historians. That translates to millions of lives saved, soldiers who didn't die in battles that never needed to be fought, civilians who survived bombings and starvation that would have continued for 2 additional years. The technological innovations developed at Bletchley, particularly Colossus, laid the foundations for modern computing. The engineers and mathematicians who built the world's first programmable electronic computer to break German ciphers established principles that would guide computer development for decades afterward. The intelligence methodology pioneered at Bletchley, signals analysis, traffic analysis, cryptographic attack, intelligence synthesis, became the model for Cold War intelligence operations. GCHQ, Britain's post-war signals intelligence agency, descended directly from Bletchley Park's government code and cipher school. The National Security Agency in the United States owes its existence partly to lessons learned from ultra operations. But perhaps the greatest legacy is the proof that intellectual warfare can be as decisive as physical combat. The mathematicians, linguists, engineers and analysts who worked at Bletchley never fired a shot, never stormed a beach, never flew a combat mission. They fought with equations, logic and relentless analytical work, and they won an invisible war that determined the outcome of the visible one. The German High Command's absolute confidence that their top-level traffic was untouchable had been their fatal vulnerability. While they invested in tactical excellence, operational innovation, and technological superiority, they never imagined that the enemy might read their most secret thoughts. Ultra read Hitler's orders before his generals did, and that made all the difference.